One day, Bora, who's been unfaithful to her husband, finds herself in a tricky situation. From the start, it's clear things are about to go wrong for her. She walks nervously, constantly checking around, as if afraid someone might spot her. She rings the doorbell of an apartment and looks around quickly. Ilbiom answers the door, not her husband. She quietly slips inside, and you can sense the tension building. Meanwhile, her husband, Seo Min Ki, is at the library, completely unaware of what's happening. He's deeply focused on a book, lost in his thoughts. The librarian asks if he plans to read the entire book there, suggesting he could just buy it and read it home. But he doesn't have enough money, so the librarian tells him to put it back. However, he cleverly slips it out and reads it outside, enjoying it quietly. This shows he's resourceful and patient. Later, he goes to pick up his daughter and head home. The nanny reminds him it's time to feed her, but he says he'll do it at home. In the elevator, he runs into a woman he used to know. It turns out she lives in the same building. She invites him for lunch, but he kindly refuses, saying they can do it another time. She takes him to her apartment and introduces him to her son before he returns to his own place. When he gets home, his daughter is crying from hunger. He tries to calm her down and get her bottle ready, only to find it's full of ants. He feels frustrated, realizing his wife has been neglecting her duties, always busy with work and leaving him to do everything alone. At the same time, the wife is with her lover. He's taking pictures of her and printing them, creating a photo album to keep for himself. She notices and jokingly says, "You have more pictures of me than I do." Then she finds a note hidden in the album and asks him about it. He tells her to open it, and she finds an old message she once sent him, along with a ring. She's surprised, realizing he's kept it all these years. She asks, "You loved me this much?" And it's clear that he did. Back at the apartment, he gives a spare key to the woman from before, telling her she can come by whenever he's not around. Meanwhile, he's back home, sitting on the couch, waiting for his wife. When she returns, he asks why she took so long, reminding her that their daughter needs her attention. But she doesn't care much about his concerns. She brushes him off, saying they'll talk later. The next morning, he asks where she's going. Yesterday, his wife had been out all day and even mentions that her voice sounds different. She says she went to dinner and stayed out late because she drank too much, using it as an excuse. Meanwhile, he spends the day looking for work but has no luck. He's hungry, so he grabs a simple meal at a small restaurant. As he walks around, trying to avoid his shoes falling apart, he realizes he can't afford new ones, so he has to get them repaired. The day goes by, and the only thing he can do is go to the library and read books for free. One day, a neighbor he met at the library comes by, and they head to the supermarket together to buy groceries. Meanwhile, his wife, who has plenty of money, is out shopping for new clothes. She gets dressed up and meets her lover, the same man who's been making plans behind her husband's back. Afterward, she stops by the nanny's house to pick up their daughter and finally heads home. At home, the phone rings. He answers, but there's no one on the other end. Later, we see him collecting empty bottles and clothes to sell, unsure of what else to do. His wife is too busy to help, so he ends up washing his own clothes and cooking his own meals, taking care of everything on his own. One day, while watching TV, the phone rings again. He picks it up, but no one is there. Meanwhile, her lover is busy blocking off the alley, making it harder for her to sneak out. When she finally comes home, she's angry, scolding him for sitting in front of the TV while their daughter is crying. He responds, saying she's quieter than he is, but she argues that she's tired from working all day while he just stays at home. She also reminds him that she was waiting for an important call. He looks upset. Her words feel like an attack. He tells her she doesn't have to speak to him like that all the time. But she fires back, saying all he does is buy used books and read all day. She tells him that for their marriage to work, he needs to find a job. Eventually, he goes out, cleans the car, and finds a receipt for clothes she bought. He carefully adds it to the household expenses. Later, she's at school talking to parents, advising them on how to care for their children. Out of nowhere, her lover appears at the school, pretending to be the web designer for the school's website. And just as unexpectedly, her husband shows up at the same time. The secretary calls her to let her know he's waiting outside. She tries to delay, saying she's finishing up some work, and starts panicking because she realizes she can't meet her lover today. Then, her husband walks in and immediately recognizes the man. He greets him warmly and even invites him to lunch. But the lover turns him down, saying he already has another commitment and isn't sure if he can make it. Her husband takes her somewhere afterward, but he can't stop thinking about her shoes. He remembers how comfortable she looked in them at the office, and doubts begin to creep in. He asks her, somewhat angrily, if she's used to taking her shoes off at work, but of course, she doesn't respond. He's so frustrated that he almost loses his temper with people passing by on the street. Then, he notices that the brakes on her car aren't working. He insists she come with him to the workshop to fix it, but she refuses, getting out of the car. She grabs a pair of shoes, takes them off, and then catches a taxi to meet her lover. However, when she arrives, she's shocked to find another woman in the apartment. Angry and upset, she rushes back to her place, banging on the door. Eventually, the other woman leaves, and she realizes she wasn't paying enough attention. She tries to apologize, but he doesn't respond. She's excited to wear the ring he gave her as a gift, but he snaps at her, asking why she's knocking on the door when he already gave her a key. That's when she remembers she left her key in the car, which her husband now has, and he's already gone. He is shocked and becomes suspicious when he notices the new key. He's busy updating his resume, getting ready to apply for jobs. Meanwhile, his wife is at her lover's place again. She notices a second toothbrush and gets angry, demanding to know why he bought it. She insists she doesn't want anything around that could make people think she's been there. He apologizes, trying to calm her down. The next day, she's at a restaurant for lunch, waiting for her lover. Meanwhile, her husband, still suspicious since he saw her take off her shoes at work, decides to visit the same place. When he arrives, he tries using the new key from her car, and to his surprise, it unlocks the door. Inside, he finds clothes that aren't his. Even more shocking, he discovers a photo album filled with pictures of his wife and her lover, including photos of him carrying their daughter. He's devastated, unable to believe what he's seeing. When he returns home, his wife is casually eating, completely unaware of how upset he island. He's still in shock, unable to eat or drink. He quietly asks her if she's happy with him, but she quickly changes the subject, praising the food and teasing him for not being hungry. He doesn't answer. Instead, he goes to hold their daughter, quietly crying because he feels betrayed by his wife's actions. Later, we see him back at the library with his book, but he's distracted, deep in thought, barely able to focus on reading. Meanwhile, his wife is with their daughter, telling him she'll wake up soon and need her bottle, but he doesn't respond. She leaves for work, but in truth she's going to meet her lover. At his place, she notices another toothbrush and clothes for their daughter. This makes her frustrated, and she's ready to leave. Later, while cleaning her own apartment, she murmurs to herself that she needs to stop seeing him and stay away. But as she looks in the mirror, she's shocked to find photos of herself that her lover took, along with other pictures in her bag. She panics, fearing her husband might have seen them. What she doesn't know is that he's the one who placed them there. She quickly hides the bag in the closet. That day, she decides to cook a meal, feeling anxious. She even prepares their daughter's bottle. They eat together, and she tries to apologize for her recent behavior. She says she had some serious work problems, but things are getting better now. He tells her that as long as she takes care of their daughter, he doesn't mind. He also mentions that he's planning to take out a loan for a new project. At that moment, the phone rings, and she panics, fearing it's her lover, and her fear is confirmed. He refuses to pick up and asks for the car keys to go sort out the loan paperwork. She gives them to him, and he leaves. The phone rings again, and her lover arrives, arguing with her because he's worried her husband might find out about their affair. He says they can't keep going like this. She tries to calm him down, saying she's just upset with some of his actions. She admits she loves him, but they can't meet today. He pushes, wanting to see her anyway, and she tells him she can't leave their daughter alone. He suggests she bring the daughter along, but she refuses and storms off. Afterward, he goes to her apartment and calls, saying he's waiting outside. She's scared but agrees to meet him. She gives him directions to a cafe, saying she'll be there soon. After making sure he has walked past the building, she breaks a small piece of a sleeping pill and puts it in her daughter's bottle. She's upset about doing this, but she feeds the baby while quietly crying until the little girl falls asleep. Then she goes to meet her lover. He apologizes for his behavior, saying he loves her and can't live without her. She warns him never to act that way again. He reminds her that they once agreed to be together and points out that she even took off her husband's ring to wear his. She argues back, saying he's being unreasonable, that she's both a mother and a wife. But he brings up the first time they met at the hospital, recalling how she said their daughter was beautiful and shy. The memory leaves her silent. Meanwhile, her husband comes home and finds their daughter asleep alone. Worried, he assumes his wife must be with her lover. He checks the baby's bottle and notices ants inside again. When he realizes her temperature is dangerously high, he panics and rushes her to the hospital. The doctor explains she must have consumed something unclean, confirming it came from the ant-filled bottle. They run tests and give her fluids to recover. That same night, the wife is still out at the cafe with her lover, who later drives her back. At the hospital, her husband spends the night by his daughter's side, deeply afraid for her safety. The next morning, the doctor reassures him that their daughter is fine and can go home. He even arranges for a pediatrician to check on her later. He hugs his daughter tightly, still scared, but when he returns home, he gets another shock. He sees his wife sneaking into her apartment with her lover again. She looks around to make sure he's not watching before she goes inside. He watches her from a distance and decides not to go inside just yet. The next day, he calls her school, saying he'll be late because of a funeral, and asks his neighbor to give him a ride. Instead of going to the funeral, he goes straight to the lover's apartment. He wears gloves to avoid leaving any fingerprints and searches the place. After a while, he finds a knife and some of the lover's hair. Meanwhile, the wife is in front of the mirror and gets scared when she finds photos of herself left by her lover. She calls him, angry, but he denies knowing anything about it. Suddenly, the lights go out, and her husband cuts off the call from a different phone. He attacks her while the phone is still on, letting the lover hear everything. He quickly locks the alleyway to make sure she can't run away. He kills her with the knife from the lover's apartment, plants the lover's hair, and wipes his fingerprints. The lover arrives, panicking, and sets up the scene to make it look like he was traveling. He calls the neighbor to buy milk, but she finds the wife dead and calls the police. The husband pretends to be shocked, asking to see her one last time. Forensics find a broken finger, missing ring, and hair as evidence. The investigation confirms his alibi, and the lover is arrested, with all evidence pointing to him. Once the investigation is finished, the husband is allowed back into the apartment. He moves in with his daughter, cleaning the place, cooking, feeding her, and even reading a special book while in the bathroom. In the book, he finds a small box with his ring inside. He goes through her photos, crying over what he's done, but then makes a decision. He throws the ring into the toilet, burns all her photos, and erases any trace of her. He decides to start a new life, focused only on his daughter.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.